I think honesty, that's also a shift because people don't want to get sold anymore. People want to be part of a story, of a real story, and not of like a marketing pitch. When people think it's marketing, you already lost the game.
Yeah, run it up. Welcome back to Brands in Play, your podcast for everything immersive marketing. I'm Vacante.
And I'm Nic Hill, co-founder and chief innovation officer at Sawhorse. This week in the news, the Devil Wears Prada is stepping into immersive brand partnerships. Deloitte drops a new report on harnessing fandom. A new immersive tech report predicts massive growth. And Meta's latest smart glasses signal that the battle for wearables is heating up.
And for our real-time review this week, we're joined by producer Gigi Casimiro to hear her review of Karl Lagerfeld and Paris Hilton's activation in Paris. Then we chat to Mirjam Schuele, the SVP of Marketing at Karl Lagerfeld.
That's right. We're exploring how the brand has leveraged Web3 and moved beyond one-off drops and into long-term thinking around ownership, identity, and digital product extension.
If you're enjoying Brands in Play, make sure to subscribe and follow. Every week, we break down how brands, platforms, and creators operate inside gaming and immersive media.
Let's get into it.
Let's go! Run it up.
Val, what's up? It's our last show together.
It's our last show together, and I'm really sad. We had a really amazing month together. We saw so much, we did so much, we reported on so much, both virtually and IRL.
Yeah, you did an amazing job covering March, all the impact that you brought with South by and the guests you connected us with. And I'm just really appreciative of the fact that you kind of like owned this entire month and you did a really amazing job.
Oh, thanks so much, Nick. I hope you guys have me back another time. So
You'll
only
be
the
on
future will
whenever
tell.
you want. I'm sure we'll keep this thing going. But yeah, a lot to get into on this episode today. So let's go to the news.
So for our first story today, we're talking about harnessing fandom. A Deloitte report shows that fans now drive identity, influence, and spending. In the recent report, Deloitte highlights how fandoms have become one of the most powerful forces shaping consumer behavior and brand engagement. The report finds that 75% of Americans age 18 plus identify as some part of fandom. Diving into some of the key insights of the report, fandom, no surprise, is identity driven. 64% of fans say fandoms are now defining part of who they are, forming those communities around them, and shared passions. And this is everything from anime, gaming, sports, music, whatever those IP stories are, people are loving them and embracing them. Fandom is influencing purchase behavior. This is really important for brands to take note of. 50% of consumers have tried a new product because they partnered with their fandom in an authentic way. Brands are also who've done this successfully are seeing at least a 10% increase in revenue lift. So we always like when we can drive revenue.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you think about fandom and how important and emotional it actually is. Like when people are a fan of a sports team or like a film IP, like they love it so much. It's so personal to them. So when brands can connect with that, I think it creates such a lasting impression and such a positive sentiment that's attached to it. An exciting and fun time for a brand to play. It's really like going back to the title of this show. It's like it's now is a great time to sort of like expand and go deeper with your marketing. And that's sort of a transition to my first story, which is the new Devil Wears Prada film is coming out in May. And it's exciting because the brands attached to it are doing really deep immersive marketing. They're not doing traditional stuff. And I'll break into that a little bit. So there's a lot of brands that are partnering with this film. Diet Coke, Grey Goose, L'Oreal Paris, Tresemme, and a bunch of more. And on the original film, it was a lot less brands, and they were all like high fashion luxury brands. And so what's interesting is that the original film had Chanel and Valentino product placement, and they was sort of woven into the story. And that budget was actually over $1 million in the wardrobe budget. And that was back in 2006. But what's interesting here is that the brands that are associated with the movie of the sequel are doing deeper brand integrations, kind of similar to what we saw in the Barbie movie. And that was a moment where so many brands were creating all of this Barbie content around the film that was actually inside of the film world. So it wasn't just like seeing footage of the Barbie movie and slapping your brand logo next to it to be associated. You were creating content within the Barbie film world and, sort of piggybacking or making adjacent moments of that story lore. And we're seeing this with The Devil Wears Prada too. So it's almost like you're watching moments adjacent to the film before the film even comes out. L'Oreal Paris has an ad starring Kendall Jenner being mistaken for the editor's new assistant inside of the runway offices. So, I mean, it's getting like very meta. You know what I'm saying? And Tresemme has named itself the official signature hair brand of the film. And it's released 3 limited edition products that are named after like iconic lines in the movie. I think this is really interesting. They're going so deep and kind of into the lore and into the vibe of the movie and creating content that uh, can stand alongside this film, not just an advertisement for it. And I think that this sort of signals a direction that modern theatrical releases are going into. I think we're seeing more intentional brand integrations, broader storytelling worlds around the film, and in general, just more immersive marketing.
I love it. I mean, we're going to see more brands doing integrations like this in film. And like you said, it's not just plonking product placement, it's actually having those layers of pop culture and people and brands in it, which is really exciting. I also love that in the sequel, they're having more of those sort of everyday consumer brands. Like almost any consumer has access to all of these products, whereas in the first one, not everybody has access to Valentino.
Yeah, they went way broader with it and more accessible.
So, for my next story, we're going inside the Immersive Technologies Market Report by Data M Intelligence. This is really exciting because, we talk a lot about brands, but this report kind of dives into the technologies like VR, AR, MR, XR. If there's another R, it's probably in this report because they do a great job of covering the market space. So, what we're seeing is that the market is growing from 4.26 billion in 2024, so 2 years ago, and is anticipated to grow to 1.74 billion by 2030. So that is a massive, massive growth that we're seeing there. In terms of regional share, North America is leading with 33% of the market, Asia Pacific around 30%, and then Europe with about 22%. Adoption is rising. This is good news for us and for brands across gaming, healthcare, education, retail, and enterprise. Hardware and AI integrations are enabling more of those experiences and making
Hmm.
things a little more scalable and tangible. We actually touched on that with Charlie Fink on our episode that we did together. So
That's right.
uh, we've got the data behind it now. Um, what's exciting for brands and what all of this means for brands is that, hey, immersive engagement, it's continuing to scale, with that market growing to the 1.74 billion by
More,
2030.
yeah, it's like more people are leaning in and using it and
Ex-
spending time inside of these immersive platforms and technologies.
exactly. And it's not just VR, right? I mean, VR is a piece of it, but it's AR. It's like, how is AI doing that? What's going on with 3D mapping? So
Yeah.
it's more expansive. And then on top of it, retail continues to embrace AR experiences. So things like virtual try-ons, product visualizations, they're becoming more accessible by everyday consumers, and consumers are actually more apt to using them, which is good news for if you want to try before you buy. And then hardware growth uh, is lowering barriers. So we're seeing more access to headsets, sensors, haptics, and just want to know your thoughts on that, Nick. What do you think of all this growth?
Well, look, I'm like a early adopter and I've built my whole career business around this stuff. So obviously like I am in support of this report and it makes a lot of sense, but I am a little bit skeptical because I think about some of the reports that we saw talking about the metaverse, right? And the metaverse being this like multi-trillion dollar industry. And I guess what was it didn't kinda go there. I guess there was some confusion around what the metaverse was, was that just VR? So I guess how does this report compare to what those reports were, in your opinion?
I think, in my opinion, they are more definitive. To your
Mhm.
point, metaverse, it's like
It's
how many
broad
different
and confusing.
it depends on what day and who you talk to. There's a different
Yeah,
definition, right?
true.
Whereas whereas with this, they are very specific, about the categories of growth that we talked about,
Yeah.
also the hardware, and I think too, not just hardware specifically, but also how it's being used. So they touch on AI, but it's not like the AI be all end all report, but it's like, how is it being used in these technologies?
Maybe things are being considered better, looking at the landscape, identifying all of the different components and then how they all feed into a bigger picture and knowing that there's an industry there and it will grow. Like I think we can all agree on that.
Correct. And I think it's going to be interesting how brands take on that knowledge and interpret that, for their brand and brand story.
Yep, agreed. And so for our last story, it's all about smart glasses wearables. There's a new report that came out saying that Meta Ray-Bans are coming out with two new models, the Scriber and the Blazer, which are some weird names. I don't know how I feel about that, but those are the two models. Apparently, it's a significant jump in tech, um, but they're not confirming any of the details. But they are actually the non-display versions, which is really interesting. So it's
Oh,
it's tech upgrades without displays. And I think one of the reasons there is they want to keep the cost down and they want to make it more
yeah.
accessible and sort of grow the audience even bigger. And what's really interesting is that there is massive growth in this space, kind of like alluding to your last story. But Meta has, as far as sales, they have tripled in 2025, and now
Oh,
they've sold over 7 million pairs of glasses. So that's definitely an indicator of growth. And my take in general is that smart glasses are the next big platform shift, kind of like the smartphone. I think we're in the really early days of sort of that evolution. And, we're about to see a competitive war by all these different manufacturers to kind of take the market share and kind of get as much of the audience as they can. So we know Meta is leading right now. Snapchat is coming out with their glasses this year. Google, as well as Amazon and Apple, which seems to be like behind the race a little bit, but I'm sure they're in development. But all this is happening this year, as we've talked about on the show. And I think one interesting insight is, the winner of this battle is going to be the company that can cram the most tech into the smallest glass kind of surface area. And that's important because we care about what we look like. We do not want to wear, obviously, it's been at this point, we know nobody wants to put a VR headset on and especially go outside. So it's like, how can you make them look like the most normal, coolest glasses possible? And have the strongest tech. So as far as augmented reality and spatial computing, those glasses that actually can do that are so bulky and bizarre right now, they won't have mass adoption. So I think it's really about whoever can strike that balance first and go to market and dominate is going to do a massive jump ahead. And I think that we probably will see that next year, maybe not this year. I think we're going to see a lot of like prototypes products rolling out, but that's what I'm interested in. What are your thoughts?
completely agree. And I will say, from an enterprise perspective, it has been interesting seeing glasses evolve over the years. Like Epson had, some really great, easy to use experiences years ago. View 6 is another one. I feel like they've been pretty consistent with how it looks. But with both of those, it's distribution. And so again, I think that's where Meta's done a great job is like you can walk into Best Buy and buy it. you know?
Yep,
Or the Ray-Ban
fully
store.
agree. We're gonna see a lot of people buying a lot of wearables and walking around over the next couple years, and I'm here for it. But let's keep this train going. Let's bring in our producer Gigi Casimiro for this week's real-time review. Gigi, what's up? First time on the show. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm super honored. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, we're excited. And thanks for being boots on the ground in Paris to check out this activation. But for our listeners, can you give a little context and background? Like, what is this partnership collaboration?
Absolutely. So this is a very recent collaboration between the brand Karl Lagerfeld, who was pretty much a big designer working for Fendi and Chanel, with Paris Hilton. And it's quite interesting because it's a new marketing campaign where the face of the brand is Paris, and she's kind of incorporating a bit the energy of Karl and also contributing on the collection creation. So it's really, I think, a way for the brand to step up into the new generation, because she's very connected with innovation in general in the virtual spaces. So they're doing a larger collab in terms of campaign, marketing, and even I would say the overall product energy, the store energy. Everything has to do with Paris at this point, I would say.
Nice. And was that store a pre-existing store or was it a temporary pop-up?
It was a pre-existing store. It's the flagship store in Paris, in a neighborhood called Paris Saint-Germain. And the thing that I really liked, in fact, to say is that Paris is an icon too, because the name, the brand, I think everything ties back to the story of Carl, right? So yeah, this store, it's the main flagship store in a very prestigious area, and they just started activating that for an event.
Gigi, thanks so much for sharing that with us. So tell us about the house interactive activation. What was that like?
So this was actually the main pop-up experience they created during Paris Fashion Week. Of course, during Paris Fashion Week, there are many different seasons. We have menswear, women's wear, haute couture. It's like it never ends, but that was specifically for women's wear. And there's a lot of pop-up experiences that happen in the city, right? So Carl's team put together this miniature house of Karl Lagerfeld inside their main flagship store. And that was in a way interactive. So it would be a mix of, I would say, showcase of products with this special interactive piece where you would be able to interact with an iPad and then take you through a journey of being in the house of Karl Lagerfeld, let's say it that way.
Great.
Yeah.
And then tell us a little more about the consumer experience and what were some of those sort of sparkly interactive bits?
Absolutely. You would enter the store and you would see this sort of miniature slash pop up of the house. Once you approach, you would have the opportunity to start interacting with it, right? So in this iPad, you would be able to put your data, mainly your name and your email, and then it would take a photo of you. So it's like a photo booth, and then it would print in real time a version of you in front of Carl's house in a very specific design with the logo and the name of the brand. So it was a more about memories, I would say. It's creating memories easily and taking that with you, and keeping that a special piece of an event that is very desired in the world.
So would you say that's really the value to the consumer is really like having that tangible memory or anything else to share about like the value to consumer?
I think the main value is definitely having a physical memory that you take with you. But considering that during Paris Fashion Week, people are really thriving to go somewhere and to have access to something. So I feel that giving that back somehow to anyone that comes to the store is really smart, because although a small act, but people feel like, oh, I went to an event on Fashion Week and that was the pop-up house of Karl Lagerfeld at the flagship store. So although low tech, I think it has a big impact on people's psychology.
Yeah. And I think when you walk away with something, it's something tangible. It leaves a more lasting impression. So I think that makes and it's all customized to that person, which I think is really cool. Gigi, would you say that this activation was innovative?
I think that maybe it was innovative in the sense that I feel that it's a start of maybe more stories they would tell. I think it's cool that is an open event on Paris Fashion Week. So that I think it's definitely a positive and is innovative in a way. From a tech standpoint, I think it was a safe choice and they could explore a little bit more. But, you know, I have high hopes for their team.
Well, they do amazing work. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for doing this real-time review for us. We appreciate it. And what are we doing next?
So thank you all guys for having me. And now actually we have an interview with Mirjam Schuele, who is the SVP of Marketing at Karl Lagerfeld.
Let's go.
Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here. Here is Gigi Casimiro. It's my first time in the show, and I'm a producer at Sahorse. So I'm super excited to be here joining Nick and Miriam, our guest that I'm going to be introducing very soon to talk a little bit about fashion, technology, and innovation. Thanks, everyone, for having me. And now I'm pleased to introduce our guest. So she's a friend and also someone I know for a while in the space. So we're pleased to bring Mirjam Schuele. She is the Senior Vice President of Marketing at Karl Lagerfeld, and she's definitely a powerhouse in the fashion industry who has spent over a decade shaping one of the most iconic names in the style. And because her background has a lot to do with technology, working with Tommy Hilfiger, Europe, Estee Lauder, and IBM, today she's going to bring a blend of creative brand building and technical strategy to the table. So we'll be discussing how fashion brands are looking to the future of innovation, digital strategies around marketing, AI transformation, and this incredible intersection of fashion and emerging technologies. Welcome, Miriam. Glad to have you here.
Hi, Gigi. Hi, Nick. Thanks so much for having me on the show today. Really excited to be part of it.
We're super excited and going global today in this episode with you directly from the Netherlands. Am I correct?
Exactly. I'm right here in our headquarter in Amsterdam today.
This is a very international show. It's extremely rare if anyone's in the same country on one of these calls. So we appreciate it.
So, Miriam, I would love you to start maybe telling us a little bit more about your role at Karl Lagerfeld. What are your goals right now? I think this is a brand that is really iconic and going through so many transformations. Tell more about you and the brand.
Yeah. As you already introduced me, I'm heading up marketing. I have been with the brand actually for over 14 years, which sounds like a very long time. And it has been a very transformative time too, because when I joined the brand in 2011, Karl was a global icon. He was creative director of Chanel, of Fendi. Everyone knew him. Everyone knew his iconic look. I think, Gigi, also your look today. Maybe slightly inspired by Karl. But the business then in 2011 was quite small. And over the last 14 years, we really built it into like a global powerhouse that doesn't only cover fashion. Fashion is, of course, our main business, but also extends into other categories such as hotels, luxury living, residences, of course, the world of fragrance, eyewear, and a lot of different categories. So it has been a really exciting ride. And if I now look into the future, I think as a marketeer, there has never been a more exciting time than now because there's so much innovation, so much disruption happening, and we are actually really part of creating the future. We have a responsibility, but we also have an opportunity to actively be part of. So for me, now it's really important to how do we bring marketing, bring the brand forward in the most relevant way, using the newest technology, and always with the mission to create Carl's future legacy.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you talk about Carl. Of course, he is a universe and also such a strong IP, so you can really leverage in multiple fronts, multiple businesses, right? Like hospitality, fashion, fragrances. So I can just imagine what you have in your head in terms of unfolding Carl's persona in multiple universes on its own. And I think that takes me to a second question. Of course, we see so many changes in how the technology is evolving when it comes to fashion marketing and with such a strong brand. Um, how do you see Carl's brand placed in this shift of how we are taking marketing today, immersive marketing, and so many possibilities?
Yeah. Well, I think you also said it already. Carl is a universe in himself. He's larger than life. He is the inventor of modern creative directorship, and there is so much that we have in terms of the heritage of the man that we can use to bring the brand into the future. But also, if we just think about Carl as a personal brand. He invented personal branding. He has done it in a genius way with creating this very iconic look with like the white shirt, the black jacket, the sunglasses, the ponytail. Like there's already so much to learn from him in that sense for us. And then being so authentic as he was courageous. He was not doing the things that people expected from him. Sometimes he was doing the opposite. And we want to kind of keep that spirit alive, that curiosity, that courageousness, and translate that in a very authentic way to our consumers today. And technology definitely gives us a lot of opportunities to play with. If you only think of Karl the character, we have a product line that is called Icon, where we play with kind of an iconized version of Karl. And yeah, there's endless possibilities if we speak about gaming and all of that, which we are not even touching yet. But yeah, so much opportunity.
Yeah, and a lot of innovation over the years that you've done with the brand. I would love to. I know guys have done stuff with NFTs and Web3 space. Can you talk a little bit about some of those activations that you've done?
Yeah, I mean, that was actually one of my favorite projects today because when we embarked in the NFT and Web3 space, actually, the first time somebody mentioned NFTs to me, I hadn't even heard. I had to look up. I was like, what is an NFT? But then, like 3 months later, we launched our own NFT. And it was like really building something from scratch. Usually in marketing, you look at like best practices and you look at a lot of case studies. You're like, how have other people been doing this, maybe in other industries? But when we embarked on the NFT, there was no real comparable product that anyone has done. So it was really innovating. What is the right method? We then also landed on this iconized Karl. We were exploring different routes, but then we thought, hey, this like more gamified character of Karl really works. We decided on the pricing, and then we put it out there to see how consumers would react to it. And that was really an incredible moment because that collection was sold out in like, I think the first one sold out in like an hour, if I remember correctly, and then the following drop sold out in like 10 seconds or something. It
Wow.
was
It's crazy.
really crazy, but also to see how consumers were reacting to this new product was quite unique. You don't have those moments very often that you can bring something truly new and innovative to the market.
I think that that was quite a unique moment. I remember that drop. I think everybody was also talking about um, digital fashion very strongly at that time. And then we saw many other brands taking the same step and then trying to create NFT collections that were really like collectible art pieces. So I think but when you did that, it was just the beginning of a whole wave. And it kept happening on the luxury space over and over again.
Beyond the NFT work, what other innovative type of like things have been built on your side?
I mean, innovation is so much part of our DNA. I mean, we always say Karl was the king of nowness. He was never interested in what was in the past. He was also not really like a futurist that was looking like 10 years into the future, but for him it was really about the zeitgeist, about what's happening right now, what are the current trends. And that's yeah, very much in everything we do. We continue to obviously closely follow the whole Web3 space. We work on a lot of innovation. I would say that it more comes to automation, scalability, and all of that with AI, sort of making some of our workflows much better. But then another innovative area where I would say we are pretty advanced is when it comes to the digital product passport, where we have adopted quite early. We are partnering with a company called Fairly Made, and I think since 3 seasons, all of our products have QR codes that consumers can scan and can see like the full value chain that the product went through, which is yeah, a really new way for consumers to connect with brands also. I remember when we embarked on sustainability in 2019, your factories and your supply chain was still kind of like fashion's best kept secret. And that was kind of like the black book that you would never open or show. And then in the last year, such a big transformation that now the consumer actually can be part of and understand like where their product is coming from and what kind of steps it went through.
And I think that recently you did a very cool, well, I mean, you have been doing gaming. I remember news in 2000, even 13, that were like mini games with Carl. And I think you have always been going back to that, like Pac-Man style. And then I was watching social media this week and I saw that you did a super cool digital activation on London Fashion Week. So I think that you keep pushing also the boundaries a bit into the physical space, how you can really create immersive experiences that resonate with the luxury fashion space and also site specific for those events. I'm just curious to know more about that event because it was really nice to see the sort of miniature house with the, we're going to show some images, but that was super cool activation you did recently.
Yeah, maybe I take one step back because that activation is linked to our current Spring 26 campaign with Paris
Uh-huh.
Hilton. We
Nice.
embarked on a partnership with Paris Hilton already last fall, where we brought Paris really into the world of Karl. The campaign is called From Paris with Love. In the first season, we really brought Paris Hilton into the aesthetic of Karl Lagerfeld. And she's dressed in like the iconic Karl look. She's wearing like kind of a short bob. And we have like this reveal moment of the campaign where you see her with a small blonde ponytail from the back, dressed like Karl, looking like Karl. And then she turns around and she looks in the mirror and you see that it's Paris Hilton. And for Spring 26, we just launched our campaign. Is called Sliving in the Maison. And it's shot in our maison in Paris, in Saint-Germain. And we brought Paris there. She invented the word sliving, which is a combination of the word slaying and living your best life.
Yep.
Uh, so she came into our maison and she took it over with her glitz and glamour and transformed it into a fabulous space. And so this season is all centered around our maison and this activation that you saw during London Fashion Week. We basically brought a mini version of our maison in Paris to London Fashion Week, and it's now traveling several cities of Europe, and it has like all those windows that are opening with like interactive elements like a photo booth, like behind the scenes content from the shoot with Paris, and little personalized gifting. So yeah, it's really fun. I think for people to interact, it's also a gamified way of bringing the campaign and the storytelling to life.
That's really exciting and really cool. I guess my question would be, why does that campaign stand out, and what does it offer to consumers that standard campaigns don't? It sounds very cool and interesting, but what deeper value is really at play there, do you think?
Yeah. So I think it's the the deepest value is, I believe, the authenticity of the collaboration. Today there's a lot of money exchanged between brands and celebrities for sort of like a pay to play endorsement. And in our case, partnering with Paris Hilton is really bringing a different dimension because there's actually a lot of, not on the first view, but on the second view, there's a lot of similarities between Paris and Karl. Both of them are very unique personalities. Both of them created almost this augmented character of themselves.
Yeah.
Paris also in her documentary speaks about this, and Karl, I mean, Karl often said sometimes I feel like a comic figure because he has created this like very distinct look about himself, the way he presented himself publicly, and Paris has actually done exactly the same. And just like Karl, she's also an innovator. She was the first original influencer. If we think back,
Yep. Hmm.
I mean, everything that's normal for us today with influencers, with those kind of super personalities, that all started with Paris Hilton.
And maybe also I think that we are living in a moment where maybe people look sort of the same on social media. I feel that there is this sort of uh, homogenization of how people look, including influencers. So I feel that is standing out is something really strong. And I think Paris, she was always able to do that, although she was always a reference of beauty and style, but she always created her own trends ahead of her time. And I think we also see that a lot. And Nick, we worked with her team also on Roblox multiple times with Paris. She was always ahead when it comes like being a DJ or being connected to gaming. And I think she became, I remember when I was working closely to the Metaverse Fashion Week, that she was the sort of iconic figure in the Metaverse. She was the queen of Metaverse in a way, right? People really looked up to her as this innovative figure connecting the physical and digital. And I do feel that choosing her probably helps you to connect with the younger generations in a way that are in that gaming space, right? So I think it's just really a perfect fit for the
Yeah.
brand at this point.
And it's like this like it's also a bit unexpected, I would say, because we went through like quite a long list of possible collaborators. And Paris was not because first you look at like very fashion, maybe like top models or something. But then when we took a closer look at Paris, it actually made so much sense to work with her. And then immediately when we spoke to her and her team the first time, there was also this immediate click where we said, okay, there's a real story to tell. And there's some meaning that we can give to this campaign that goes beyond just that perfect, polished image that the consumer is also getting tired of, because now perfect content is with AI. I mean, we can just create it, and what makes marketing interesting is when it's actually based on human connection points and on authenticity. And Paris and Carl both have are super authentic, and that's why they also sometimes have been criticized, because they have not always been doing what was expected from them. Like Paris went into this Web3 when people maybe thought, "Oh, that's crazy," but then she claimed it for herself and she created something meaningful for herself there, which is truly impressive.
Absolutely. And you mentioned AI there for a second. I wanna jump into AI. In your opinion, how is AI changing consumer communication and opening up new channels for the brand?
I mean, definitely AI is changing how we work in every single way, and like how we create content, how we can be much more personalized to the consumer in our targeting and our CRM communication through our social channels. I think now it's really finding the balance of where AI brings like the additional value, which for sure I see in in scaling, in automation, and in certain content. But then there's also this counter trend that is like, while we can create everything with AI, it will be also much more important to have like real, raw, human, let's say, unretouched content. And we see that already with the trend going from Instagram to TikTok. Instagram was all about, or is all about, perfection and everything being really polished, and TikTok is more about the raw, the real, and showing and giving like an unedited, unretouched point of view on things.
Yeah, and I think the we will still have to see, right, how those workflows will evolve, because I think every brand is also trying to figure out like how do I keep myself relevant in a world that will be flooded with AI content. There is also a lot of, I think, I see a lot on socials fandom content, like users that are really big fans of a company and they will be generating content about that brand. And then that's also, I think, part of another POV of marketing, like how you're going to handle that at some point, right? Your fans creating content about the brand with high quality in a way using AI, right? That's something I think it's happening more and more.
Absolutely. It will be, yeah, the consumer will be bombarded with content,
Yeah.
and you will really need to find ways to stick out. And I think the way to stick out is to create an emotional connection with the consumer. And because
Absolutely.
everything else will just be empty content that people forget instantly. I mean, they consume it, it will go be like in and out.
Yeah,
And I
I
mean,
feel
we are
like
all consuming like this.
attention is going in the opposite direction. We live in a world now that like we can have anything created for us in real time by machines, but that holds way less value than a human story or a human reaching out to you to say something. And I feel like now that is becoming way more interesting than it used to be. It's like we're going backwards in a cool way.
Absolutely. And I think that actually brings me back to something you mentioned without we going too technical. But you mentioned about digital product passport, which is something that is becoming the law in EU, which is pretty much tracing products. There is a legislation around it. The physical products will have to have a way to be tagged and traced digitally. So you know where is the source of that cotton and the manufacturing. It's all about accountability and sustainability. But uh, we also know that this could be an opportunity to click with people in the physical world, we connect with your consumer because, okay, it's the law, but how about the marketing opportunities there? Because in a way, you are connecting the physical product to the digital space. So, I mean, do you see marketing opportunities there? If so, which ones you are thinking right now? Because that's quite intriguing to me, this new law.
Absolutely, and I think it's we haven't it w for now, we are only using kind of the tip of the iceberg, really sharing, like, the value chain information, but in the future, this can be a tool to deliver, like, deeper storytelling on a product level. It can even enable, people to resell, to easily, like, upload a piece onto a resale platform or to the brand's own platform. It can be almost like a new CRM channel because you can also update the information in the product passport. So let's say if you bought a bag a year ago, year later, we could upload like new exciting information, or we could offer like a repair, or yeah, it really gives like a personalized way to and interact with the consumer in the future and make the interaction also very meaningful and personal.
Yeah, and I think that's where maybe we'll see like how we can unleash the gamification to the physical stores. And I always love the idea that where to earn. Maybe one day you'll be able to tap your blazer and log in every day that you use it, and that it's kind of a game in real life, showing your loyalty to a brand. You know, I feel that there is a lot that could be done with physical items that are physically, digitally connected. And and also I think the question is like how do you engage, like how you make consumers interact with such technology. So they need to have to see a value there. Look, okay, if I interact, I get a discount, I get access to an event, I enter a game, you know, like otherwise it's a
Yeah.
test for sustainability, but really that will not be used. There will not be engagement.
Yeah. And it will be like a mutual learning cycle from consumers and brands. Consumers also still have to get used to the information and the access that they have to information. And yeah, it will be really exciting. As you said, you can do like post engagement that you say, hey, everyone that bought this bag last year could have access to an exclusive event, and like this draw people back into the brand universe. And we are just only uncovering all the opportunities with this digital product passport tool. It's very exciting.
Well, speaking of events, do you feel like there's this shift in marketing that's, people have been talking about it. I'm curious to get your take. This shift of really having more IRL pop-up activations and more sort of experiential branded sort of pop-ups. Do you feel like that's, a real trend globally this year? And then also, what's your interest there? And then how do you balance that within your broader media mix?
Yeah. I think definitely what we spoke earlier, that people are looking for that emotional connection, and you create that via authentic content, but in the best way you can create that with real life experiences, create memories together with your consumer, meet them where they are, build like local communities. And it's crucial. I think it's not a question of one or the other. I think it's about strengthening both, making sure your digital storytelling is on point, but also really connecting with your local communities and then offering them a real experience as opposed to just shopping, let's say. And that do it in like a very authentic way, because the key is not only do all the fun and cool stuff, but to do it in a way that actually feels right for your brand, that makes sense for your DNA, where people are like, ah, this actually surprises me, but it still makes sense.
That's authenticity, and that's real value. And it's not super intuitive for a lot of brands, you know? You kind of gotta be a little vulnerable, and you gotta, like, to try things, and you gotta be honest, and but when you do that, I think people pay attention, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's also, I think, honesty, that's also a shift because people don't want to get sold anymore. People want to be part of a story, of a real story, and not of like a marketing pitch. When people think it's marketing, you already lost the game.
Well said, Miriam. Well, we really appreciate you coming on the show. I feel like your insights were fantastic, and, we're fans of your work, and we're excited to see what you continue to roll out this year.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure to be part of the conversation. Exciting times, and yeah, can't
Thank
wait to
you.
see what's next. Thank you,
Wonderful.
Nick.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
Gigi.
you.
One
Have a great day.
So, wow, that was a really super, super interesting interview. I love seeing how fashion brands are really forward looking, experimenting with new formats, platforms, partnerships. I mean, Paris in Paris, that's pretty cool. And then also learning more about what they're doing in the space when it comes to kind of Web3 and new experiences and platforms. What did you think, Nick?
I thought it was really smart. I mean, I think that they are leading in the space, and I got a lot of respect for them. And I think taking a step back and looking at the fashion industry more broadly, it's been really interesting to see how different fashion brands are leveraging different kinds of immersive technology and immersive platforms. And I feel like we've seen these sort of waves, and I don't know what is like fully stuck across that vertical. Like I don't it's not like all of them are doing consistent Roblox activations, or they're not all leveraging like AR mirrors inside of stores. Like it's everyone's still testing things. And I'm curious to see like what is the next big tech advancement where the fashion industry says we all do that. You know, I'm wondering, couldn't that be related to smart glasses and augmented reality? Once we get there from a fashion standpoint. Like, I'm curious, will they lean in and start to create digital fashion that is only viewable through wearables?
Oh, completely agree. I mean, I've really admired the fashion and beauty space over the years. They're always quick to try, test, learn in all the different new platforms and spaces. To your point about glasses, what a great way to do virtual try ons, right? Just put on the glasses. Hey, do I like this dress? I don't like that dress. I do like this dress, and have that virtual try on experience. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
or adding to it, right? It's like, we can detect that you're wearing a certain kind of dress, or someone in your view is wearing a certain kind of dress, and there's added layers of visual interactivity that's from a design perspective, like an addition to the style, which I'm curious to see if they leverage that.
Completely agree, and one last thing to say to that is just similar to how Amazon have done Amazon Lens, where you snap and click. Why not be able to do that from your headset? Have it delivered to your door. I think we might, expand the credit cards too much with that, but an easy way to shop in any case.
It's true.
Okay, so let's go to hit, miss, bet. Excited to hear what you say, Nick.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm up this week. So for my hit, I think there's so much hype around studios and development agencies purchasing the rights to Roblox games, talking about how they're going to turn them into movies. It's like I've been hearing about this for months. And legitimate organizations like Story Kitchen and others that are like acquiring these rights to some of the biggest Roblox titles like Adopt Me, Grow a Garden, Creatures of Scenaria, Jailbreak. These are all massive, massive Roblox games, hugely popular with a younger audience, very recognizable IP. So it's very smart for these sort of development companies to acquire these rights. But what I'm skeptical about is like not all of these games have deep backstories, right? So it's like what what are these movies? Like, are they interesting, right? That's one. And two, are they actually in development? Like,
Mm.
or are they in production? I guess that's the question. Yes, they're in development, talking about what could be done, but are they selling it? Are they getting greenlit? Are we actually filming anything? Are we actually going to ever see a Roblox movie? I don't know. I want to, and I like the hype, but I want to see something.
Yeah, it's almost like is it like you said, the hype. Maybe they're checking it out. Are people excited about the hype? Do we move forward with this?
It's it's hard to make a movie. It is not fast or cheap. It is a big, big thing. And so will they bring it to life? I don't know.
And also we had the success with Minecraft, so
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, we know
curious
video
to
game
see.
movies. Yeah, we know video game movies work, but it's proof is in the pudding. We'll see. And so for my miss this week, and this is controversial, I may get some hate for this, but so Capcom, one of my favorite video game companies, has come out publicly and said they're not going to use Gen AI in any of their art in their games. They have decided and leaned into using it for efficiency on the back end. So from like the coding and all the stuff that like users don't see or feel, they're gonna lean into AI. But when it comes to the visual of seeing a character or seeing some of the 3D art, they don't want to touch that because they feel like there's a lot of that's one area where the masses, like consumers, are just they don't want that AI to take over that. And so I'm in support. I think that's smart. It's cool, but I think it's a little foolish to just say that you're not going to use AI because we live in a capitalist society where everybody is competing, right, for the best product at the best price. And AI is one of these things that is kind of permeated into almost everything that we do. It's unavoidable. And from a competition standpoint, you are going to have producers that are dabbling with AI and sort of merging it to create the most superior product. And I found a lot of success and understand when artists can leverage AI themselves to make better products. I hate AI slop. Like, that is garbage, and I think it's an oversimplification to think that anybody can just hit a button and get something great. You always need humans attached to how that gets done. But I think companies coming out and saying, like, "We'll never do this part of AI," it's like, I just don't think that's a realistic argument. So that to me would be my miss. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I will say I appreciate their stance because you are also hearing a lot of chatter, in the kind of fandom and IP space where people really they don't want their sacred IP to, turn into AI slop, to your
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
So I appreciate that. I do feel like they're probably listening to the community on that. In terms of like post production or tweaking, I mean, I'm glad, I guess, they're being honest about that. But like that is a must. I agree with you also that we shouldn't be afraid to kind of concept with AI or have AI be your co-creator or collaborator.
We're
It
all
helps
doing
speed
that.
things up. It just
But
like
also,
helps you move
that's what
faster.
Capcom is doing already for concept art, like as they're ideating, like that's already come out publicly. So it's like they're messing around and then, people are seeing that and then creating art based on what they're seeing. But AI has a hand in everything that humans will do in this near future. So it's a controversial one, but I think there's ways to coexist with it and not have to hate it.
Agree.
Okay.
Coexist. Good word.
And my last so for my bet, this is interesting, it's a connected TV or CTV. I feel like that, um, interactive TV will change the TV commercial forever. And so Samsung is coming out with new smart TVs, and they announced at the IAB New Fronts that they're adding an add to cart feature via Amazon into their interactive ads. So you're at home with the remote control, you see an ad, you can immediately just click and you can buy and you can send with a handful of clicks. And so I think this is going to have an impact on the way ads are being made and served within the CTV sort of ecosystem. And there's a study that came out saying that like interactive ads are 17 times higher engagement than standard ads, which is a huge uptick. And so traditionally TV ads have been looked at as awareness, right? It's like, look
Mhm.
how great my brand is. Like, be aware of it and like you should consider it. Top of funnel. I think we're
Mhm.
moving down the funnel with these type of ads that are more like performance marketing because it's like, buy this product right now for this price and this is how we have it for you. Like, click it here, right? So the type of ads are changing from a creative standpoint. And, my thought I'll leave you with is this less cool? Is it less fun? Is performance marketing, kind of taking the fun out of immersive brand marketing away? Or is this a new opportunity for a new kind of genre, a new kind of ad shopping genre? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I mean, look, earlier on in my career, we would have awareness ads, brand ads we would make. We would have DRTV ads, direct response television with the violator bar that with the 800 number. Correct. Correct. And we had different metrics for those formats because they do different things. In terms of the sort of connected TV shopping, I think it's fine. It makes it an easier experience. It helps tie the ROI. I think where it's going to come down to is into the creative, and it's going to be really important for brands to use that thoughtfully,
Yeah,
right?
and
So
thread the needle. Don't be over the top. Don't turn it into a shitty infomercial. But at
correct,
the same
correct.
time, make sure you're converting. You have the opportunity to. You need to get the messaging right. So it's probably going to be a learning curve for a lot of these brands to change the way they're creating their ads.
Completely agree. I think there's gonna be loads of testing, in terms of like, what is the offer? What is the creative? How are people responding? Oh my goodness, this one that was like, maybe it's a complete brand focused ad, but quietly has, the button in the corner. Maybe that's the one that people are buying, off the virtual.
That's the fun area. That's the innovation that we're about to see, which I think is interesting. We should keep an eye on it. But that's a wrap on this week's episode. And unfortunately, that's a wrap on Val as co-host on Brands in Play. Val, I just got to say, thank you so much for rocking the mic. I feel like you drove a lot of value for our listeners over the past 4 weeks and 5 weeks. And so we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nick. Like, massive thanks to you and the full team for including me. It's been so much fun working closely with you guys, sharing these wonderful stories. Again, virtual and IRL.
That's right.
Also, just connecting our communities together. So thank you.
Yeah, it was a great time, and I'm sure you'll be back. We'll get you back on the show. It'll be a focus area of mine. So for next week, we'll have a new surprise co-host for April. I'm excited for that. You're gonna like them, and we're also going to be talking to Sarah Apaza, the digital brand experience manager at beauty brand Cosa Nova, to discuss how beauty brands are showing up inside of gaming platforms like Roblox and what it takes to move from one-off campaigns to building persistent, community-driven brand worlds, which she and her team have done really well.
I can't wait to hear and see this one. Sarah's doing incredible work in the beauty space and gaming space. So, hey, check it out.
It's going to be dope. And if you're enjoying Brands in Play, make sure to follow the show. Each week, we break down how brands, platforms, and creators operate inside of gaming and immersive media. That's it.
Edward, please read us out.
And that was Brands in Play. Thank you for joining the podcast where we explore immersive marketing and the people who are leading it. Co-hosted by Nic Hill and Vacante. Our show today was produced and edited by myself, Edward Regiu, alongside our creative producer, Dr. Giovanni Casimiro, and creative director, Ben Caro. Be sure to join us every week for brand new episodes.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guests and do not necessarily reflect the views, policies, or positions of host employers. The information shared during this podcast is based on personal experience and publicly available information and is intended for informational purposes only. Any references to specific platforms, companies, or partnerships are made in a personal capacity and do not imply endorsement, partnership,